Well, hey folks, this is John with Ozarks Backroads with you today. We're in the World Headquarters garage. We're doing a project here on the 2019 Suzuki V-Strom 650XT. We're going to be changing the rear sprocket. We're going to gear it up just a little bit. It's not going to be a real drastic change, but it'll help it a little bit on the highway, drop the RPM just a little bit. This bike is very low geared. First gear, it just barely crawls, so I think we'll be fine. We can gear it up a bit and drop the RPM some on the highway. So I'll be installing a new chain as well. I'm going to be using an RK, the GXW Heavy Duty X-Ring chain. I like to run these heavy chains. So I'll be using that, and then we'll be using a JT 44 tooth rear sprocket, replacing the 47. So we're going to drop 3 teeth. When we get our sprocket changed, we'll take it out on the highway and see how much difference it makes. So stick around, we'll change the chain and sprocket on the 2019 V-Strom 650XT. All right, well, I'm going to start over here on the right side of the bike. I've got the wheel speed sensor right here. I want to get it out of there so I don't break it, taking the wheel out or putting it back on. This ring or the rotor could hit that, it sticks in. So I'm going to take it out, and then we'll remove this caliper. Just pull it out of the way and leave it over here. I'll just put the screw back in so I don't lose it. And then I'm going to remove this caliper. Looks like we got a 12 right here and then an Allen on the other end. And we'll get it off. We've got our caliper off. I kind of put it up here on top of the muffler out of the way, and we've got our sensor out. Before we get going too far here, I'm going to go ahead and remove this chain guard right here, and also this front sprocket guard right here, just to make this easier to get to and to video. So we got a couple of screws on the chain guard, and there's a screw and a screw here on this this front guard here. Front sprocket guard. Well, I've got a grinder here. I'm going to go ahead and cut my chain. This chain's too long for what we need, so I'm just going to put a new chain on it while I'm at it. So I'll just cut one link off here, just grind the heads off of these studs and then pop the link apart. So all I need to do is just grind those flush right there, and then just take a flat screwdriver and go behind the link that I ground off. And pop it right off of there. And then we can just back our link out, and our chain will come apart then. So that's pretty simple. Okay, we've got our chain cut. I'm going to go ahead and pull on my new chain as I pull my old chain off. It's just a lot easier. I'm going to take my old link that I cut out when I cut my chain. I'm going to tie my new chain here into my old chain on the end of it here, like that, just by putting the link back in it. And then I'm going to pull it through. And I'll just make it quicker and easier for me. This bike's all opened up with the covers off, so it's no big deal. But this is a way you can do it. That's you may have a bike that it's hard to get up there and get the chain worked around the front sprocket. It may not be as accessible as this bike. Keep track of this stuff. I've got my scissor jack set up to where my rear tire is just barely touching the ground. So my axle will slide out. It's not got any pressure on it. So we'll go ahead and push this out. And then our rear wheel will just back right out. And then we got spacers on both sides. So I'm just going to keep them in. This one goes over that way, and the little one goes on this side. So then our wheel's loose. We've got our wheel off. We've set it up on a couple of 2x4s here to keep the the rotor down here off the ground. We don't want it on the ground. So got it propped up a little bit. We'll just take our nuts off and get this old sprocket off. We got our old sprocket off and our new sprocket. We're going to put it on, and there's always on these sprockets there'll be a flat side like this. It's just flat all the way across, and then there's a dish side. It's dished in here, and then all of your markings, your manufacturer and your part number, are stamped on this side. So your flat side goes against the wheel, and you should be able to see your part number and your manufacturer information there. We'll get our nuts on here and get them torqued. We got our new sprocket on here, and we kind of got them snugged up. We're going to torque them to 45 foot-pounds of torque here. And I'm just going to go in a star pattern, back and forth. I believe that'll do it. We've got her torqued up. We can put our wheel back on the bike. We got our wheel stuck in here. We've got to remember and put our spacers back in. I'm going to put a daub of fresh grease in this seal where this spacer runs, so it won't be dry running on the spacer. Put a little bit around the lip here, or where the lip runs on the spacer. Put her back in there, and I'll do the same thing on the other side. Now we'll see if we can get the wheel slid in here without knocking the spacers off. That's always a trick. And knocked one out. All right. They are in. We'll see if we can slide this axle back through. All right, that's in. We'll put our plate back in the slot there. And we had a washer and the big nut. Now I want to run the adjuster out so my axle can slide forward. We're going to have to cut this chain and size it, so I want my axle kind of forward in the slot, not all the way to the front, but maybe a third of the way back. That'll give me plenty of room to tighten the chain. Got the wheel slid way up. You can see the how much room there is back here. Just going to snug this a little bit so my wheel won't slide around on me, but I can still adjust it. That's probably good right about there. I think that's all the way up. I'm going to pull it back just a little bit, maybe to the second hash mark from the front. So I've got a lot of adjustment back here that I can tighten the chain on. I'll set the other side the same. So I got both sides set, the back of this plate setting on the second hash mark from the front. Probably about a quarter of the way back in the slot. So I got a lot of room here. Next thing we need to do is to figure out if we're going to have to take a link out of this chain. I think I ordered it long, so I would. Looks like, yeah, a full link. So I got one link sticking up here. So now I'll pull this adjuster back, kind of get the chain where it needs to be, and then see if that's what I want. All right, so I've kind of got the chain, it's a little tight for running, but kind of in that area there, and I'm right in the middle of my adjustment. I've got half of my adjustment still yet behind it. So that's where I want it. That's where I want the chain, how long the chain needs to be. So I need to cut out one full link right here. I need to grind that off right there and remove this link that's sticking up, and then my chain will be the right length. To get this link off, I've got to take this, grind the head off of this, and then knock that off, and then we'll be free. So we'll get this going here. And there it comes. All right, that'll release. That full link comes out now. So now we can install our new master link right here. We got our new master link here that they sent us, and they sent us a little bit of grease here. We want to grease this up real good, and then we want to get grease in the holes where the pins go. So I'm just going to squirt that in there out of this, try to squirt it through the hole there. I'll pack it in from the back side. Then we'll take our link. We've got a seal on each pin here, and it's going to go in from the back. There it goes. Pushed out most of our grease, but we did the best we could. All right, and I'm going to put a little grease here on the front around these pins. Put my new rings on there. And then we'll see if we can get this plate started. Usually you have to use a pair of pliers, channel locks or something, and kind of get it started on there. There, it's starting to go. We've got our chain tool, a super light chain tool here, and we can actually push this plate on. So we've got a little piece here that's made to, it's got a channel in it, that fits over where these pins will be, and it'll push this plate on that goes in this tool. And then we put the tool over the channel over where the pins are going to be. That looks about right. And then we'll see if we can push that plate on. You'll kind of feel it when it snaps on and starts going in, and it is. It's going in. So we'll push that down about as far as we can. And it'll wind up being, those pins should come out through the face of that plate if the groove's in place properly. Let's look at it and see, make sure. Yep, they're starting to come through here. So I'm going to run this down pretty firm, see if I can press it as far as I can. That's probably it right there. And I got a pin, same amount of pin coming through. Okay, I want to know if I've got that pushed on far enough, because I want it all the way in as far as the rest of them. So I'm going to take a pair of calipers here, and I'm just going to check the gap on these outer plates on a couple of these and see what it is. That one is 605. Let's check this one. 607. 608. 605. So somewhere between 605 and 608 is where I want this gap in between these two plates to be. And I'm at 608 right there. So I've got it pressed in as far as it's going to go. Now on my little tool here, I can take the little die here that presses the plate on, I can take it off and put on slip in my little pin that actually there's a little die, a little point on this die that spreads the ends of these out. So I just put the point in the end of the pin. The other side, there's a recess in the tool for the pin on that side. That looks right. Now we just compress that, tighten this down, and it'll spread the end of that pin out. and it'll be on there forever till we grind it off. You can kind of feel it. You can feel it giving as you go. Eventually it'll just get hard and you can't turn it anymore. That's when you're done. Somewhere in that area there. It's flared out pretty good. We'll hit this one a lick now. Do the same thing with it. Oh, I believe we got that one pretty tight. Yeah, I'm gonna hit this one more lick. I think it'll go just a little more. Take a look at these. Oh yeah, they're not going anywhere. I'm gonna check my gap one more time in between these plates here. 107 or 607. So we're in agreement with about all the rest of them. So we've got it in far enough that it's not too tight. It's where it should be. All right, well that chain is, that ain't going nowhere. We've got our chain, I've got my chain adjusted about where I want it for the first ride. It's gonna stretch immediately and have to be tightened again. But I'm right in the middle of my adjustment. I'm dead on the center hash mark halfway through my adjustment, so that's perfect. I'm on the center hash mark on both sides, but I'm gonna go ahead and check this with my Motion Pro chain alignment tool. Slip it over the chain, clamp it onto the sprocket, and make sure that my chain runs straight with the sprocket to the front sprocket all the way up. So I just get down here and look up this tool, look up the shaft, and the chain runs right along the side of it all the way to the top. So it's perfect. So that's a good tool to have to make sure that your sprockets are in line. So I know on this bike, when I'm lined up on these hashes on both sides, I'm really close to being straight, and that's good. A lot of bikes aren't that way, they'll be off. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the final torque on this nut at 73 foot-pounds. And get it going tight here. Is what it torques to. I'll put the brake caliper and the little sensor back in on the other side. We'll be ready to take this thing for a ride and see how it does on the highway, see how many RPM we drop at 60 or 65 miles an hour. We've got our new chain and sprocket installed. We're taking a ride down the highway here. We're going to see how much difference this has made. We'll get going here and get in high gear. Low gear still seems plenty low for me. I can't tell much difference really. I'll run it up to the 60 miles an hour on the GPS and see what the speedometer says. Okay, the speedometer on the bike has not changed. It was 4 mile an hour fast, and it's still 4 mile an hour fast. Well, it looks like it's dropped my RPM at 65 miles an hour. It's dropped my RPM about 200 RPM out on the highway. So that was definitely worth doing. 200 RPM is a pretty good drop. I thought it would be more like 150, but it looks like it's about 200. The speedometer it didn't change the speedometer. It's still 4 mile an hour fast like it's always been. So the computer is reading the wheel speed off of the wheel speed sensor, the ring there on the rear wheel. So no matter what I do with the sprockets, changing teeth, it's not going to change the speedometer. The computer's reading it right off the wheel. So the speedometer is still reading 4 mile an hour fast just like it always did, but we have dropped 200 RPM out on the highway. Well folks, I appreciate y'all hanging out with me, doing a sprocket and chain change here on the 2019 Suzuki V-Strom 650XT. I invite you all to come back and see me. We got a lot of places to go and more things to do. Till I catch up with you again, y'all take care of yourselves. We'll catch you next time.